Okay, in our previous lesson, we studied the correlation of the average apartment prices in relation to the rent rate per square meter, and we determined that it's extremely, quite strongly correlated. It's almost, the value is almost 0.99 positive correlation. And we also uh, analyzed the correlation between the GDP growth rate percentage-wise and the vacancy rate percentage-wise of apartments. And we ascertain that the correlation of GDP growth rate and vacancy rate percentage-wise was a negative correlation, meaning that the higher the growth, the GDP growth rate, the lower will be the vacancy rate. Let's go back and calculate again the coefficient of correlation that is called R, and we will use the formula Correl array X and array Y. So you see, this is the negative correlation, which means that as GDP increases, vacancy rate decreases by a strength of 0.529. We can plot this to show the correlation in a visual manner. Let's add this in a new chart. Move the chart as a new sheet, and let's add the values, data labels, and let's add the trend line. So we can see that as the GDP increases, the vacancy rate decreases. You see here, the GDP is at less than 1%, and our vacancy is quite high, is 9.2. But here, the GDP is close to 5%, and the vacancy decreased to 7.8%. Okay? Now, we want to use the concept of correlation. We want to use the concept of regression. Because correlation tells us the strength, this strength, and direction, which is a negative direction, of the relationship between these two variables. But the regression allows us to quantify that relationship. So first I will show you how to do it very quickly with Excel. Or first, let me teach how to do it manually. No need actually to know how to do it manually, because Excel has a built-in data regression function, but it's always nice to know. Oops, 1 second. So these are the formulas that we are going to use to calculate the regression or to quantify this relationship. So first of all, Y will be this vacancy rate here. B will be the slope or the rate of change. And A will be the y-intercept when x is 0. So let's calculate B in our equation. So B, first of all, we need to know R, we already have R. Then we need to know the standard deviation of y and standard deviation of x. R we already have. And standard deviation of y, this is the Excel formula. This is y. And the standard deviation of x is this array. Okay, so our B value, which is very important, is, let's make this bold, everything bold. Our B value is R times the standard deviation of y divided by the standard deviation of x. This is the slope. Let's change the font color because it's quite an important value. Make it bold. That's the slope of our equation. Now we need to calculate A. And A is simply, we need the mean of y and we need the mean of x, right? Because we already have B. So A will then be A, let's use the same color. The mean of y is the average of this value here. Okay, and the mean of x is the average of the GDP growth rate. So our A value will be the mean of y minus B times the mean of x. So now we are able to build our equation, which will be our equation will be y equals bx, what is b? Minus 0 point, let's round up 31, x plus a, which is 9 point, let's round up 4. Now, this is the most important equation in the entire calculation, so let's make the font 24 and bold. This is the most important equation in this calculation. So what is this telling us? A 1 percentage point increase in the GDP growth is associated with a 0.31% point decrease in apartment vacancy rates. I will repeat because it's very important. A 1 percentage point increase in GDP growth is associated with a 0.31 percentage point decrease in apartment vacancy rates. This is an association, it's not a cause, okay? Also, another important part to take into consideration, if x is 0, if this value is 0, meaning there is no growth, if GDP growth were to be 0, the model predicts a vacancy rate of 9.4%. So no GDP growth, my vacancy will be 9.4. That's what the model predicts. So this I will type, this is very important. This is a theoretical reference point rather than a realistic scenario. Now, I can do exactly the same calculation very fast without going through all the hassle of going through this formula, but it's always good to learn how to do it manually if you don't have Excel, for example. So let's see how I can get this slope and the y-intercept with the built-in function in Excel. So I will go to data, data analysis. I will select regression, and my y is this value here. This is my y, and my x is this. Okay, so I will show as a new worksheet. Okay, so it will be easy to see. Let's arrange the auto-fit selection. So here we have, you see, 0.31, exactly the same value that we found, 0.31 that I rounded up. It's actually 0.30. That's the slope. And the intercept, the y-intercept is 9.36. I rounded up to 9.4. 9.36. Okay, I hope this lesson proves helpful. Thank you.